Don't you wish you could go back in time just for like a couple hours or just a day?
I feel like I kind of am. Look the way I'm dressed.
You look very dashing. Welcome to Hubbard Park. We're at the beautiful Castle Craig. I'm Kathy Matula. I'm the recreation coordinator for the fabulous city of Meriden, and I'm here with Justin Picarello today. He is our city historian, and today marks an anniversary.
It does.
Tell us about it.
Here we are atop of East Peak, Castle Craig right behind us. 120 years ago today, Walter Hubbard and 250 others celebrated the donation of the park to the city of Meriden.
And they did it with a huge clam bake.
They did. A clam bake and a oyster bake, 6 bushels of oysters.
That seems like a lot of oysters.
It is. It is.
That sounds like a great party.
It does.
Now we'll show you a picture from that party, and we're sitting in the exact spot.
Yeah, we are. We are with the castle right behind us. To understand the park, one must first look at its donor. Walter Hubbard, Meriden's greatest single benefactor, was born in Middletown, Connecticut on September 23, 1828. Like many youth of his day, he grew up on a farm and was educated in the township schools. At the age of 18, he secured a position as a clerk in a general store where, by his thrift, energy, and strict attention to his employer's interests, he accumulated enough capital to embark into business for himself. This he did, and in 1851, Hubbard opened a small dry goods and clothing store in Meriden, in which he conducted until 1860. Hubbard was married in 1852 to Abby Ann Bradley, the daughter of Levi Bradley, a prominent farmer of neighboring Cheshire. She died within a few months, and Hubbard never remarried. In 1854, in company with his brother-in-law, Nathaniel L. Bradley, Hubbard founded the Bradley and Hubbard Manufacturing Company. The firm would become one of the largest manufacturers of lamps in the world. This enterprise was the financial vehicle that allowed Hubbard to purchase land surrounding Meriden's Hanging Hills. From his first acquisition in 1869 and throughout the next 30-plus years, he added land to a park which would later bear his name, and this park he would dedicate to the city upon this afternoon all those years ago.
We have visitors from all over the world here at Castle Craig, from April all the way until the end of October every year. Justin,
Yeah.
tell me an interesting factoid that not many people know about the castle.
Well, I don't think many people know that Walter Hubbard's initials are carved into the keystone of the castle.
What's the date say?
1900, and that's what we're celebrating.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for that interesting tidbit.
During the October 29, 1900 dedication of Hubbard Park, a large flag was raised at noon high above the tower by Hubbard's contractor, Patrick Quigley. As it flown in the breeze, 3 rousing cheers were given. This flag would also have historic associations. It was shot down during the War of the Rebellion, and years later, it was raised over the Hawaiian capital of Honolulu. When the Republic of Hawaii was proclaimed during President Cleveland's administration, there was an unsuccessful attempt to haul this flag down by the rebellious subjects of their queen. It is unknown how this flag would later come into the possession of Walter Hubbard or of the city of Meriden. Walter Hubbard formally dedicated the tower and presented it to the city of Meriden October 29, 1900. This was the provided account of the day's dedication festivities in a local newspaper. A large number of members of the Court of Common Council, together with other dignitaries, attended an oyster roast in the shadow of the tower. Westbound trolleys were crowded with citizens who used this form of transportation to the park area, from which they had a long and arduous trek on foot to the tower. There were also a number of citizens who drove to the top of the mountain in their own carriages. At 2 p.m., it was estimated that approximately 250 guests were in attendance. Their generous host, Walter Hubbard, had provided 6 barrels of oysters and a barrel of clams. These were roasted over a big fire under the direction of C.W.F. Pardee of the Winthrop Hotel and P.J. Quigley, a local contractor, with the assistance of 12 men. The tower itself was the center of attraction, and nearly everyone had something to say concerning the beautiful scenery and Mr. Hubbard's benevolence.
I think it's very magical up here.
I think so too.
Whenever I'm up here, everyone that comes up here forgets about all the stress and troubles of the city. People come up here to reminisce. They tell us about their first kiss, their first date. I've witnessed several weddings. It's just beautiful up here.
Absolutely.
And very peaceful.
Right. So they started building the castle in April of 1900. And it came from a visit into Scotland that Walter Hubbard had traveled to. When they got to Scotland, they came to a little village called Craigellachie. And to get over into the village, they had to cross this bridge. And this bridge actually had 2 towers on either side. And when Walter Hubbard started acquiring all the land, he had come back from this trip, and he had it in his mind that he was going to create this park. And we seem to believe that atop of the peak, he wanted to take that castle that he had seen in Craigellachie, and that's where we get the name Castle Craig from.
So the idea for the castle came from a bridge.
Yeah.
Today, we do yoga classes up here. We have a full moon viewing, and that's pretty spectacular. I could imagine back then when they came up here in the horse and buggy to look at the full moon, that must have been amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely no light pollution.
We also have the race, the Bernie Jarrell race.
That's right.
Coming up here, all the way up here, 3 miles up and 3 miles down.
That's right.
And then of course we have guided hikes every week. So it's still utilized
Absolutely.
every single day,
Absolutely.
all year
Absolutely.
round. I hope that he appreciates that we still keep his vision alive.
I hope so too.
So I had read before that his wife passed away shortly after they were married.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, and to me it's a sad love story, and he spent the rest of his life with a broken heart and building this beautiful park for all of us.
Yeah.
Do you think that if she hadn't passed away, we would still have the park that we have today?
I don't know. That's so hard to say. I mean, this is definitely all speculation and opinion. But I think seeing how he treated kids in the youth of his day, I think he would have had kids. I think he would have been a big part of their lives. And I don't know if the park would have been such a focal point in his life if he had kids and he had his wife.
So out of such a tragedy came such an amazing, beautiful venture.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, she died a day before her 20th birthday. And for the next 60 or so years, he just put everything he had into his business, everything he had into this park, acquiring the land. And I think he'd be very proud of what it's become.
And I'm happy to be part of it.
Me too.
And I'm happy to have you here.
Absolutely.
And
This is
always
great.
giving us such great information.
This is wonderful.
A nature lover all his life, Walter Hubbard often drove his carriage along the shores of Marimere Reservoir, looking up at the majestic beauty of the hanging hills. It was in the early 1880s, as he continued to acquire land, that Hubbard devised a plan for building a park. Hubbard is pictured here riding along a cliff drive. The pathway known today as Fairview Drive. The name Hubbard Park was officially established on March 7th, 1898, by an act presented by City Alderman Henry T. King. This was confirmed on January 9th, 1899, by the Connecticut General Assembly after the state formalized the city's ownership of the park. Now, there's some debate about Olmsted, who designed Central Park. Was he a contributing factor in designing Hubbard Park?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Walter Hubbard had asked and reached out to the Olmsteds in Brookline, Massachusetts. He reached out to Frederick Law Olmsted for an opinion. He wanted him to come to the park and to witness what Hubbard had started. Well, Frederick Law Olmsted was almost 80 years old when this came, when Walter Hubbard wanted him. By no means was Frederick Law Olmsted coming to Meriden. So he gave it to his son, John Charles, actually his stepson. John Charles came here in 1898, and he looked around, they went for a walk around the entire park, and he offered several opinions over 7 letters which came to Walter Hubbard. From a historical point of view, Walter Hubbard never responded. Not that we know of, that he never responded to these 7 letters. And these letters were quite critical of Walter Hubbard's designs. There are a few suggestions that Olmsted requested, that he put forth, and Walter Hubbard did act on a couple of them. But to say that it was an Olmsted designed park, or even a dually designed park, I'd question that, because I think Walter Hubbard was, first of all, he was the say, he was the final say, but I think for the most part, a lot of the designing of the park really came from Walter Hubbard, and like I said, only a few suggestions from Olmsted.
Obviously, this is one of the prime hiking spots in Connecticut. I think hikers get confused with the peaks. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we are on East Peak. If you just go on the other side of this mountain, you're going to come to West Peak. Across, we have South Mountain, but it wasn't always labeled that. As early as we can go back, the place names have always changed. In fact, everything here has changed a couple times over. Mirror Lake, the lake that's down below, was considered the old reservoir. But here we are on East Peak. Originally, this was thought of along with the West Peak. They were both considered West Peak.
We actually have new trail boards coming, and we'll have enlarged pictures of the trail maps from the Meriden Land Trust in there.
Really?
I hiked for the first time West Peak this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And there were remnants of buildings. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Sure. So as early as the 1850s, there was some type of settlement on West Peak. In an 1853 newspaper, we hear of a gentleman from South Meriden who made his way here. He had purchased some land atop of West Peak, and he had plans of building a hotel.
I could have been the recreation coordinator for a huge hotel in Hubbard Park.
It could have been. It could. So it was called the West Peak Hotel. When Henry Johnson, who owned the land here, had gotten wind that, hey, we can actually make some settlements here, he actually had plans drawn up for an even greater hotel. It never came to fruition, but once word had gotten out that a hotel may come to fruition here, a lot of the affluent people of Meriden started buying houses atop of West Peak, and those are the remnants that you are seeing of their houses.
Oh, that's very interesting. Do we know why the hotel never ended up getting built? I can't imagine it would be easy to haul water up there.
Well, I think it's Walter Hubbard. Walter Hubbard, he got wind of this, and he did not want anything to disrupt the land, to disrupt the water. So he put a stop to it as quick as he could by purchasing the surrounding land, and more importantly, just building up the park.
So Walter Hubbard's vision is the purest form of a park.
I believe so. I think he would be very proud of what it's become, and just knowing that it's still being used under the parameters that he left the park. And I think that's a very important thing to be recognized today. told Quigley, who was a supervisor, he said, that stone, I want the kids to remember. I want to make something about this rock that kids will remember. And this is called Face Rock, and it's actually right here. And he actually took 2 marbles. Originally, there were 2 marbles inside this guy's face. They're long gone now, but as you can see right here, Face Rock.
I happened to take a sneak peek at some historical pictures of Van Shell from someone's book that's coming out pretty soon. And it was really cool how they had all those benches set up for families to come and sit together.
Yeah, you know, like going back to the Grecian temple, which is behind it, in 1907, that was opened up for the Meriden City Band. The Meriden City Band was the precursor to the Meriden Symphony. And the Meriden City Band would play here every Sunday, or just about every Sunday. And then once the band shell came in the early 50s, that's when the Meriden Symphony actually took over, and that's where they played them. But more than anything, I think any person in Meriden has a story about this park, and it's all good.
The historic photos here in this presentation are just a small part of the upcoming book, Images of America, Hubbard Park, by Justin Piccirillo, scheduled to be released by Arcadia Publishing in February 2021. Do keep an eye out for it.
Look how beautiful. So amazing here and magical.
I found laughter in the springtime with the daffodils on parade, and I found love under summer fireworks while the symphony orchestra played, and I saw heaven in the autumn hues from the top of Castle Craig, and the snowy winter lights. What a wonderful display. Hey. This city's made of silver. This city's made of gold. And I've been so many different places, but Meriden is my home. Places I know so well, and I understand all the stories that they tell, for I've done all those things.
Castle Craig is the perfect hiking spot. You can come up the...
And they ask me.
Okay.
That's right. Just start the hiking thing again. Don't worry.
What?
Just start the hiking piece again and I'll let it in. Whenever you're ready.
We get hikers from all over. What was I going to say? We get hikers from all over.
There are hikers that come here?
They do! That's cool that we're sitting in the first structure in the park. It's so amazing and so historic and
I cut it. I thought you guys were done.
You gotta give us the signal.
No, that was good. That was good.
Well, there was a big pause.
That was a keeper. We're done.
But Meriden